Negotiating with brokers does take some effort. It takes some time to get better at it, but it definitely can be an overall satisfactory decision or outcome for both parties involved. Actually, all three parties involved. That would be the carrier, the shipper, and respectively the broker as well. So, one of the things that I like to tell carriers, and I think that carriers should do this, and if you're not doing this, even as a new carrier, is to start implementing this into your own business practices. It's very simple. It's not a magic 8 ball that you shake and you magically get $46,000 for a load. But what you can do is when you talk with these freight brokers, they answer the phone. Hello, how are you? This is blah, blah, blah. And then you go to them. You say, hey, I'm interested in this load from A to B, Chicago to Dallas, for example. Can you give me some details? They'll go back and forth, give you the details. Obviously, Chicago to Dallas is a pretty popular lane, so to speak. But irregardless what lane that may be, talk to them and see what they're offering. So ask them, hey, do you have a number in mind? Do you have a rate in mind for this? And they may say something to you like, well, what can you get this covered for? What is your rate? You can say, let me check the miles. While I'm checking the miles on this, can you just let me know where you need to be or a range where you've been on this in the past or in the recent past? And they will come to you and say things like, well, we typically we're around, $2,200 on this lane. So the reason they're giving you that number is that's a number they kind of want to plant in your brain. It's like planting a seed, right? So they're going to come to you, they're going to give you that number, and it's an anchoring bias. And we as human beings tend to stick to that first number that's thrown out our way, okay? So if they say 2200, we're going to be fixed to that number. Whereas you can rebuttal that by saying, well, typically we move this at 2,800 or whatever your price would be, okay? But make sure it's higher. Make sure it's higher than what they had offered you, okay? And then they will maybe, worst case scenario, meet you halfway, okay? Worst case scenario, they say, well, we can't do 2,800. Can you meet me halfway at 25, for example? Okay. Now you would have already wanted to probably settle at 25. Maybe 22 is a good price, but this is the way for you to negotiate more from the brokers on a daily basis. Okay. Now it doesn't seem like a lot. Okay. It doesn't seem like you're going to be getting rich off of one load, which you won't. But to sustain in business, you're going to have to use these practices. Okay. Now let's look at it from the perspective of, minimal gain. Okay, so let's say $50. Okay, we're not even talking 500 or 1,000 more dollars. At $50, okay, if your driver, let's say he's an over the road driver and he ends up starting the tender process for 3 loads. In other words, he's picked up and delivered probably 2 loads within the week, and then he's started that third process by taking that third load. In other words, picking it up and then doing his maybe weekend reset at home, or depending on the hours of service, wherever that place is that the driver is at. Okay, so with that being said, at $50, okay, if you got $50 more for all 3 loads for that one week, okay, that's $150 more for just that one week of loads. Okay, in that 1 month, you would have gained $600 more for your driver in total revenue, not profit, of course, because you're going to have to pay for, or your driver will have to pay if you're the dispatcher, independent dispatcher for that driver. Irregardless, $600 for 1 month of negotiating at bare minimum of $50 more. Okay. Now, if we look at that, okay, at $600 more, if we look at that on an annual basis, that's $7,200 more. Okay. Now, here in Canada, that's roughly 6 fuel tanks full of fuel. Okay. 6 fuel tanks. Now you do the math in terms of mileage, how much mileage that pays for, just by asking for $50 more, and just by considering the one variable expense, which is fuel prices, regardless of all the other expenses that you have to pay for. Okay. Now at $7,200 more, even you as a dispatcher, if you're charging something like 5% as a dispatcher, that's $360 in one calendar year for one truck that you're leaving on the table for the broker. Okay. Now let's go back to the trucking company. Okay. At $7,200, okay, for one truck. If you're dispatching 3 trucks for that trucking company, that's over 20,000. That's $21,600 that you're leaving out on the table. That's not coming in as revenue. Okay. Now, unfortunately, this is a business based off of supply and demand. So every cent or dollar amount does matter and does go towards refining the bottom line. Okay. So, like I said, these small tweaks in negotiations can get you a long way in getting to where you want to be as a either dispatcher for the trucking company or trucking companies that you represent. But as a whole, I think you should definitely be considering doing this, whether that's you're taking loads off of DAT or taking loads off of Truck Stop or here in Canada, respectively, for LoadLink. Irregardless, just asking, simply asking. You would be amazed how much more money you will be able to get at the end of one calendar year where you have implemented negotiating compared to if you were to test it. I would advise not to, but if you were to test doing 1 year of no negotiations and just taking the number that's thrown your way compared to you trying to sustain your company that you're representing, even if it's your own company or someone else's. And in addition to that, growing that revenue base that you pay all your bills from. Okay. So with that being said, let me just recap quickly for you. So if a broker says, what do you need on this? You can say, I'm checking the miles. Let me just check the miles. Where do you need to be? Is there a range or a price where you would like us to be or are trying to get this load covered for? And if the broker comes to you and says, well, typically we cover this at 2,200, throw them with a price that you think that you can get it covered for with a slight increase. So that way you and that broker can meet in the middle. Okay. I have not met a single broker where the words I don't have that much in it, when they say that they don't have enough in it to cover you for it. Okay. Now they may push back. They may say absolutely not. If you feel like taking that load at the price, I'm not saying just say no and always no and no, no, no. What I'm saying is just put that additional effort in to try to get that specific freight broker to bite on the price where you have negotiated to. Okay, so try it. Let me know how it works. If you find this video helpful, if you find this type of content helpful, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and comment. Let's have a discussion. If you don't even agree with me, let me know why you think you should stick to the price that the broker has given to you, and that's it. Irregardless, let me know in the comments below, and we'll go from there. So thanks again for watching, and cheers. Keep on trucking.